Welcome to Fourth and Average. It's been a little bit, but not as long as our last hiatus. And you'll notice we're missing somebody. And no, I'm not Jacob Prevo. I'm signed into his account. So today, I guess I'm Jacob Prevo.
Stolen
I,
valor.
I actually am now the proud owner of his social security card, all his credit card
We
information,
own the
everything like
Prevo
that.
Enterprise.
Yeah. So sorry, Prevo, when you're watching this, you got to give me the Forerunner and Mustang, whatever else you got, buddy.
Yeah.
So it's all mine now. But on today's episode, we're going to be discussing some of the NBA Final Game 7. I know it's a little stale, but I think it's worth going over, especially since we haven't. And, our opinions are the only ones that matter and that you guys care about.
And they're
Um,
they're the only ones that are right too, so make sure you listen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've never been wrong on any of our episodes about any
Absolutely
of our
not.
takes ever.
In
But
due time, we'll see.
yeah, right.
As of right now, we're not wrong yet because a lot of them haven't happened.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, especially with the divisional talk with NFL coming up in the next, what is this, 8 weeks? 8 weeks, I guess,
I
from,
think training camp is at the end of next month, and then
you know,
preseason starts early August. So yeah,
yeah. So there we go. So we'll find out how wrong we are. But today we're going to be going over, like I said, Game 7, and then we will go into the NFC West. We do have some guests coming on for some other divisional talk, but that'll be released in the future. But I think we'll start us off with a question. This is our first episode since the first day of summer. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, summers are cool. I like summers, but they just don't hit the same, I would say, as when, you're in school and you
especially
actually,
as an adult now, whenever you start having money taken out of your bank account
for
in the middle of
anything,
summer.
for any fun summer activities you want to do,
Yeah.
you realize like, oh, that's right, my mom and dad can't pay for it anymore. So, we're here. I am the mom and dad, or the dad, mom and dad, rad dad.
Yeah,
So
right.
anyway, but anyway, I got to thinking, what summer memory activity, whatever it is, what is it that defines summer for you? And I actually kind of got this answer because it just reminded me all those times like I would go down to my grandparents, so my me mom peepaw over like my mom's side, and they lived out in Ash, in Brunswick County in North Carolina. So during the summer, it was actually at night. We would go around, and there was a bunch of fireflies all the time around, especially like out in
Yeah.
the country. And you don't see a lot of fireflies nowadays. You get everybody, oh, they're dying off, they're dying off. There's still a lot around, but there's definitely, I feel like there's just not as much as there was back then. But I just remember running around in the like twilight hours whenever the sun's still kind of up and the fireflies are out, and it feels a lot better outside. It's not as hot and humid, and you're running around without shoes on and everything, and just getting worn out before you got to go in and go to bed. So that was always that's a really cool, like, I don't know, summer memory that I always have that makes summer really special to me. But
For sure.
yeah, Cody, go ahead.
No, honestly, I feel like for me, something similar to it actually kind of happened recently whenever you were able to come down that weekend with your two boys.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to get me, your brother, Jacob as well. We were all able to just one day we were just sitting out on the patio, and then Chris just looked at me and Prevo and just said, "You want to go play basketball?" And we have not done that in so long since we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
just outside, just 2v2 playing horse, just us just
Mm-hmm.
being able to play and enjoy that moment together, even though we all said beforehand, let's peg it about 80% so that way we don't get tired. That was never going to be the case whenever
Was
the
it?
four of us are together.
No, we get
With
ultra competitive.
about to say it was also probably one of the hottest weeks of the summer,
It
so
was
it
during
just
the heat
perfectly
wave.
encapsulated to me what summer was like growing up for us for sure.
Absolutely, that's a really good one. That's definitely up there for me. Yeah, I would say that's really good. And Cody's right, man. And plus, I will say the games when we were younger used to be way more competitive than they
That
were that
7 foot
day.
rim felt a lot nicer
We put it down to
whenever you were
7 foot.
younger.
Oh yeah, we put it down to 7 foot that night because we were like, let's not play a real game. But we still had like we had so much fun, dude.
Oh
That was
yeah,
that was awesome. I mean, my
that was a
shirt was
blast.
a completely different color. So much, like I lost so much water. Like I was sweating, but I had fun. It was good getting out there with the boys. But awesome, awesome. Thank you for listening to that, and comment if you have a favorite summer memory or just the
Yeah,
summertime
that's it. Just let us
anything.
know.
Yeah. So let us know when you're liking and subscribing as well. So we'll get into Game 7 NBA Finals. My initial thoughts. I'm not mad. I wouldn't have been mad at either outcome. I think the only thing, like I said, we'll keep. Well, I guess we'll
I
keep
just
it
don't
short.
think we
But
got the true game that it should have
I
been
don't
with
either. I don't either.
just the
I,
injury happening so early.
I know. And he just hit two threes in a row. He had 9 points in like the first what
He
four or
looked like he
five
was about to
minutes.
take that game over.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, and I it just sucks because I don't think we're gonna see him until 2027. Like
Yeah,
I think he's done. I same with like Jason Tatum. If the
him,
East is going to be
Damian
weird,
Lillard
yeah, the East is going to be really, really weird. I think next year, and
for
we're
sure.
gonna, and I think it opens up though for a lot of those younger teams. On the East, I know the West is always more
I say
ultra
you got the
competitive.
Cavaliers, you potentially got the Magic that are up and coming with that new
Maybe
Desmond Bain
The Knicks if they
trade
can get more depth,
and a
as far as
coach.
the end of coach. Yep, yep. But at the same time, in the NBA, does like how much does coaching actually matter? I think that's one of the hottest like debated questions as far as NBA talks is just like because you have the good head coaches that you can tell make a difference,
For
but
sure.
there's like two or three in the whole league. Like Spolster's one, Pop was one. It's
Yeah.
like Steve Kerr could
It's
even be
purely,
one,
I feel
but
like it is purely dependent on the situation as well and where the players are in their career. Because I mean, like you can plug anybody into the Lakers and
exactly. Like
you
when
can
they
get
hired
50
JJ
wins
Redick,
potentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
when they hired JJ Redick, everyone was like, "What are they doing? He's a
It was a completely
podcaster."
unproven coach.
I was like, "Yeah,
Like,
but it would be. I would hop on that train right away if he got hired for like college or something like D1,
oh, for sure.
like I would be like, what are you doing? You need like a coach. But when you're coaching a team with LeBron on there and like actual players that have been playing all their lives, they don't really need any more coaching. They just what they need in the NBA. I feel like the head coach is just a glorified like babysitter almost in a certain way, not all the way. That's not like the only thing, but it's like make sure that when you hire a head coach, just make sure their personality gels with the team, and I think you're going to be
Yeah.
fine. Like if you're a coach that can be respected but also just be like, guys, like if you respect me, I respect you. Let's here's some plays I want to run with you guys. If you know what I mean. But like that's
Yeah.
about
As
it.
long as
Like
you
you're
don't
not.
lose the locker room, I feel
It's
like
about
you are
locker
in
room.
good
Yeah,
standing as a
yeah,
head coach in the NBA versus in the NFL, which again, like Chris alluded to, we'll be talking about in a little bit. You can just have a bad stretch of games and you'll be out like that sometimes.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it just it NBA is weird. That's why I don't really watch it. I'm more of a college basketball person than I mean than than NBA. But I don't know. But back to
I will say though, I feel like this series did bring in a lot more fans than the NBA had previously.
yeah.
With this, especially being two franchises that haven't won a title before,
Mhm.
you were able to get a lot of the Golden Gate Bridge went through your cup there.
Ah, yes.
Um, you're able to get a lot more faces on newer players that a
Yeah,
lot of people hadn't heard of before.
absolutely.
So hopefully, we'll be getting a broader
Well,
spectrum of fans
you
going into the future.
that's a good point because my dad was asking me like, "Hey, who's even in the finals?" When we were watching it, when I was there with the boys and everything, and I said, "Well, SGA's in there," and he's like, "Huh?" And I'm like, the MVP of the league, like they like it's just new age of NBA that you could tell is just I feel like they're marketing more overseas now, and the era
Yeah.
of LeBron and Kevin Durant and even Giannis and everything else is I mean Giannis is mid 30s now. It's like he's getting up there. He's 34, right?
Uh,
33,
I'm actually
34.
I'm
He's
actually not sure. I'm actually curious.
yeah, he's sneaky.
Giannis is 30. That is actually shocking. I'm not gonna lie.
That's more shocking. Now, if you would have said 32, I'd been like, okay, that sounds right. 30 is shocking on the young end. He's been holy cow. Okay, well, sorry, wrong. See, there we go. Wrong finally. But
Yeah, really.
but I don't know, but you're right. I think it does bring a lot of goods. And I think that ironically, and again, sucks that he got injured, but I think that kind of opened up the eyes. He was like, wow, this guy was good. So it was a big deal that he got injured. So a lot more eyes are on the Pacers with Tyrese Halliburton's injury and everything.
For
And
sure.
And but just getting back to the game itself, I would have been happy if either team won. I was wanting a good
Same.
game is really what I was what I was hoping for.
And at
Um,
halftime, I feel like we got that.
we did, and then the third quarter happened, and Oklahoma City figured out like, oh, Tyrese Halliburton went out in the first quarter. What are we doing? And
Yeah.
they turned into Oklahoma City. Now, I did say I was talking to my father-in-law about this, and he wants to put an asterisk on it. I don't want to. The reason why I don't want
I
to is because of the
don't
regular
agree.
season. They were the best team. Oklahoma City was by far the best team. The best team did win. I don't care that. I understand people are going to come at me. Well, Tyrese Halliburton got injured. I get it. I get it. But you can't sit here and tell me that just because if Tyrese Halliburton didn't get injured, that Pacers are just automatically going to win. That's a dang good Oklahoma City
It's like
Thunder.
at the end
Yeah,
of the day, you only get to play the opponents in front of you. The
correct.
circumstances are purely on the opponents. It
Correct. And
has
Oklahoma
nothing to do
City
with you and your team.
Exactly. And Oklahoma City did a really good job of doing that in the third quarter and waking up and saying, okay, let's just play our brand of basketball. And you could tell I felt bad for Oklahoma City too, because when they won, it wasn't as ecstatic of a celebration as I think it would have been if Tyrese would have actually played. That's the one thing that I think is
Yes.
the difference. In all honesty, I would, if I'm putting money on Oklahoma City to win that game, probably 8 or 9 out of 10 times because it's a game 7 in Oklahoma City, and they were the best team in the entire league for East and West this year.
Yeah.
So I give credit to Indiana where it's due. You look online, all the Indiana Pacers fans are very happy about the way the season ended. They're not upset, and I don't even think they're really saying like, "But what if Tyrese?" How a lot of Indiana Pacers fans are just like, "Man, it was awesome. Thank
Like
you."
this is an awesome ride. Like this
Yeah,
was an amazing journey
they're
that this
thanking
team
the
had brought us
Pacers.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're literally like, "Thank you for giving me that joy." Like all these Pacers fans are, and that's awesome. Like, and that's part of me where it's like, dang, I kind of was rooting for Indiana, but it's like I'm happy that the Thunder got the
They finally got
Thunder's
their ring.
first. Yeah, exactly. So it is what it is. I feel like that's game 7. I mean, anything you add anything on that one, but it was awesome. But now I'm begging for football.
I was about to say now we're in the lull of baseball season with All-Star break coming up.
The doldrums.
For me, Club World Cup, Chris was actually able to watch a game from one of his offices. That was actually kind of cool, not gonna
Yeah,
lie.
I did not get any pictures for Cody. Cody was very upset with me,
It's
but
all good.
it was good. But
So yeah, we're kind of looking forward to football season coming up soon. So that's why we wanted to hop into the NFC West here.
and as you can see from the background, so NFC West. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get out my phone here because Cody did a fantastic job of doing our research, and it.
It's actually very fitting that you have the Golden Gate Bridge behind you based off of who FanDuel is expecting to win the division at odds.
What do you think about that?
So, as I was just saying, San Fran is plus 165 on FanDuel to win the division with their win total set at 10 and a half. I
Mm,
don't necessarily agree with that. Main reason is because I feel like this season they had lost more than they were actually able to either retain or bring back. They lost Debo, who I feel like for the majority of the season, people were saying that Debo is out of shape.
mm. He's always
Debo
been
lost a
big.
step.
Mm.
One, Debo is probably one of the more physical wide receivers in the league whenever he
Him
gets
and
the ball
AJ
into his
Brown.
hand.
Hmm.
He spent the last 2 months of the season basically playing, recovering from pneumonia.
Hmm.
So people really aren't going to take that into account.
Hmm.
They lost Travarius Ward. He left for Indiana. They lost Drake Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. So they lost a big chunk of that defense. That was a staple
Hmm.
for them to lean on in this past season with them losing so many pieces on offense. Um,
I
they
do
were able
like
to bring in
Michael
Bryce Huff and
Williams
Richie
though.
Grant. I do like Michael Williams from the draft.
I do like that one a
Pairing
lot.
him with Bryce Huff on the edges, I feel like that is potentially going to give them something alongside of Nick Bosa. They'll be able to rotate in and out, keep some fresh bodies on the field. They just essentially all they did was just beef up front. They also added Alfred Collins. I think he's 6'4", roughly 330 out of Texas. Same thing with CJ West, 6'5", like 350 pounds. They just got a bunch of big bodies up front to help with being able to establish the line of scrimmage.
And it almost reminds me the Eagles, not to switch divisions, the San Francisco 49ers kind of did what the Eagles tried to do this offseason, to where the Eagles lost some guys, but they did I mean, it's Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's going to do what he does. But it's almost like, I'm not going to say they did it kind of the Walmart brand way as far as the 49ers. I feel like they did it more of like, you have the Eagles up here doing it, and you're, I don't know how to explain this, but very high end retail store, name it. And then the 49ers are kind of doing it like, here's the Target version. I won't say Walmart,
Yeah.
but it's like, here's the Target version of this, to where it's like, we're going to hope. Also, it brings up, you lost a lot of talent. I think what they were saying about Debo this year was unfair. It reminds me of the James Harden talks. Is like when a player starts doing
When a player's
any,
game changes almost
yeah,
in a
and
way.
it's almost like he's trying to figure out something new, trying to recover from an injury or sickness or anything like that, and he's trying to get back into it. And you're playing bad, everyone's going to say, "Oh, he's gained weight. He's gained weight." If you look back on it, yeah, he looks a little bigger, but not really. Like, he's always been a big guy. He's always been a thicker
I
wide
say
receiver.
his build is to be able to absorb contact, being able to play through the middle of the
Yeah,
field. That's where he thrives. And I feel like with him recovering from the sickness this past year, that was a big hindrance on him and his explosiveness, being able to fight through, I'd say, the linebackers and the safeties that are playing low in the box.
and I think that snowballed into his catch percentage. I think his drop issues. I
For sure.
think him being more out of shape, more, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
it was a kind of a head case, and I think he did the right thing of getting out of San Francisco. I think San Francisco did the right thing too, letting him go. Just, hey, like,
Yep.
we'll help you out here. And going to Washington, complete opposite. I think it's going to be a game changer. And who knows? I'm not sold on Brock Purdy as far as like top five, top 10 QB. He's a good
No.
quarterback. How much more can he get better? I think we've seen the best of Brock, like how good Brock Purdy's going to be. Not
Yes.
that he's going to be regressing.
Brock Purdy is an amazing point guard.
Yeah, he's like, you know what he's like? Kendall Marshall.
Yeah,
He's Kendall
exactly.
Marshall. He is
He's Kendall Marshall
literally,
at UNC,
yep,
100%.
yep, very, very pass first type of, like, got other guys are
So
going to get the credit.
he is amazing in the system that he is in.
Yeah,
If we
yeah,
see him in another system, that is where the true light will shine on a player.
yeah,
Because you are playing in what is, in my opinion, one of the systems that is essentially perfectly built for a quarterback like him. It'd be
correct.
him, Matthew Stafford, just the
Alex Smith,
gunslingers.
whenever he was
Exactly.
very, very much very game manageable. And I think
Exactly.
Brock Purdy elevates the game manager, like as far as the game manager quarterback position, to where you have
Yeah. I mean,
superstars
he
and
was
you
able to
have,
lead them to a Super Bowl. So, I
yeah,
mean,
I mean,
we
he's
can't really
good.
discredit that.
And I think he deserves the money. But if 49ers fans are sitting here thinking he's going to get, he's just going to keep getting better, he was an older quarterback coming into the NFL. He was already, what, 24 years
I
old,
think he was 23, if I
23.
remember.
So
Yes.
he's 25, 26 now.
Yep. And he'll be, after this contract, he'll be going into his early 30s.
Yeah. So I think he's done as far as development, which is fine because he's developed very nicely
Yeah.
into a quarterback that you can go to the Super Bowl with. But you have to have the pieces around him. And I don't want,
Exactly. And
I,
being and having to give him this contract essentially is going to potentially take away from those pieces. Like we were saying, they had to get rid of Debo. They brought in Ricky Pearsall last year. They weren't really able to develop that much chemistry because man got shot
yeah. Yeah.
before he ever stepped foot on an NFL field.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of late development happening there with those
Yeah.
two.
And I was looking at this today, not not counting Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was taking pay cuts in order for the Patriots to be who the Patriots were when Tom Brady was on there. When you go back and look at all the Super Bowls in the last 2 decades, majority of those Super Bowls, they had at least one starting quarterback in there that was still on their rookie deal, because they need to build that. I mean, to be honest, man, the Panthers need to, like, in order, like, that's kind of what the Panthers are in, not to bring back to the NFC South, but it's like we got to win now with Bryce Young on his rookie deal so we can bring
Yes.
people in. So, but in
100%
San
agree.
Francisco kind of missed that window now that they paid Brock Purdy. And it's like,
And now we'll
okay,
potentially see the repercussions.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like we were just talking about, like with projecting them going forward, what I had said for me is the key to them potentially winning the NFC West is they just need to stay healthy on the offensive side of the ball.
Hmm.
I feel like if they
Hmm.
do, they have Brandon Ayuk coming off a torn ACL. We'll see about that. Christian McCaffrey, if he's able to actually step foot onto an NFL field. As much as we love him as Panthers fans, we understand the risk of having him as your three down back.
Because he's
Um,
never not going to be like
yeah, like
when he's healthy, even
when he's
not
healthy,
ready.
he's a top three running back in the league.
Yeah, easily, easily.
So yeah, with Ricky Pearsall coming off an injury, with Trent Williams going into his late 30s,
So I'd
um,
say this might, who knows, this might even be Trent Williams last year. Maybe he's got one more in him. I mean, I
exactly.
hope he doesn't pull a Jason Peters, to be honest,
Yeah.
because that was, yeah, kind of.
And then just also the rookies on the defensive side of the ball, just being able to adjust to the NFL speed quicker. Because if they're able to do that, then I can see the world where the San Francisco 49ers are potentially fighting for that conference championship, potential Super Bowl,
I
because the
think they could
ceiling
get a
for this
wild
team
card.
is that.
Yeah, I agree. And I had something good, and then you brought up that good point, and I was like, what was I going to say? Basically, I think what it comes to, like you said, it's just health. And but I don't know. I think the NFC West is actually compared to the last 2 years, it's actually going to be more competitive from like from Arizona as well. So they got
Yes.
to watch out for that stuff. I mean, I'm putting them second. That's my guess. That's my prediction. They'll
So,
finish
okay,
second
so
in the.
over under win total 10.5.
Under at 10.
You say
Like
10?
I think 10. I think 10, and that finishes second, which is fine. I think that's a wild card spot. I with how the NFC is, I think it could be a wild card spot. Now, who knows? The NFC, we have the NFC East all the way on the opposite coastline that could be putting three teams into the playoffs. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So, um, it just depends. It could be one of those where San Francisco actually has a 10-win
Yep.
season,
And I'll tell you right now, I personally will be taking the under on that as well.
yeah. Where
Going into
are you
this year,
putting 10? Or are you think even less than 10?
I'm potentially thinking less than 10. I'm a lot lower, I feel like, on the 49ers coming into this year. And I feel like the main reason is just because all the pieces that are getting older are such core pieces, and the
Yeah,
ones that are oft injured are such core pieces to it. The
yeah,
defense, yes, Robert Saleh, you bring him back. That's a great
absolutely.
tool to have in your bag to have someone who is such a strong defensive minded coach. But I think with him having so many rookies coming into the team, it's going to be a struggle for the first year for sure.
Oh, that
Um,
was my point. I think it's going to be tougher for NFL teams now in the future because cap room keeps going up, but also college players coming into the NFL today are not NFL ready. I don't
no,
even care
not
if
at
you're a
all.
first round talent because they're doing this
You're
stupid.
maybe getting 3 to 4 a year, I
Oh yeah,
feel
like
like.
the top five picks are, you're like, good job. All right, after that, it's like you better be sitting them behind somebody, and you better have a veteran in that position to help them because, and that's kind of what I thought the Panthers were doing, but we cut Jadeveon Clowney, so now it's just like, all right, rookies go do it. But
Go, yeah, go to
um,
him.
I mean, again, Clowney was never. He was one of, in
He
my
was here.
opinion, he's one of the biggest busts ever because of the talent coming out of college, and all of a sudden he did not even get close to
I feel like
even in
that's a
his good
list that we
years.
could potentially cover later, by the way.
I absolutely agree with that. So there you go. Listen out for that. But
And
um,
then I would say, go ahead. What would you say is your bold prediction for the 49ers coming into this season? If you would like, I will go ahead and say mine. Like I said, I see the under. I think this could potentially be Kyle Shanahan's final year in San
mm,
Francisco. And the main reason I say that is because I've actually listened to other podcasts and other platforms that have 49ers fans on it. A lot of them I feel like are more so tired of getting to that point, but never having the finished product, which is the Lombardi Trophy. And there's
mm,
a repeated history with Shanahan getting to this point, not just with the 49ers.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
the most 28-3.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
I can
Falcons fans.
just I can just see this potentially being the year where they say, okay, enough is enough. We have our franchise quarterback. let's find someone that works with him and fits his skill set well, but is essentially a fresh face.
Bill Belichick.
Fresh face.
If he doesn't, if he, but if he really, so like
Fresh.
young coach, so you're thinking like a Dave Canales type situation where
I
like no
yeah.
head coaching. I like that. I think that's fine. I at some point you got to get new faces into the league anyway. So, and I think San Francisco's fan base, it's not like you're playing in New York, and I think it's a well established franchise, and I think whatever new head coach comes in there would definitely be supported. So that's actually it's probably one of the better situations if that does happen for a new
Mike
head
McDaniel
coach.
coming back. I could see that as a possibility if
I
things go
think
south in Miami.
I was about to say, when we discuss the AFC East, I think that
We'll
would
see.
be my bold prediction. Kind of, I'm with you, man. Like that's kind of mine. My bold prediction, they don't make the wild card, and it's not due. I don't. I mean, you heard what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to get around 9 or 10 wins. I'm putting
Yeah.
them at
I think the
10
NFC is just more competitive
exactly,
than
and
it has been in years past.
I think if they make the wild card, Shanahan, his seat's hot. It's not on fire. But if they do make the wild card and that's it, they lose in the wild card round and say they start out 1-3 the next season, he
Maybe
might be one of those mid-season
one of the
fires.
first ones.
So
Yeah.
that's my bold prediction. And I know it's not really bold, but it's kind of like I could see him. I could see him almost being. I have a feeling it's going to be a next season type of fire in the middle of the season because it's
Sure.
almost like the 49ers are always that team. It's like, oh, who's injured on the 49ers this time? You know what I mean? And that saved Shanahan's butt a lot in the last 2 years, especially when they would come in and overperform for a backup and actually lead them pretty deep into the playoffs, and then it would just
Yeah.
fizzle out. But I think they're kind of running out of that, with especially with the people that have left. So, final prediction: they finish second, and
Mine
I
is, I would say, third.
okay, okay,
All right, and then so
okay.
now I would say let's go ahead and move on to the second place team in terms of odds, which is the Los Angeles Rams. Win total is going to be set at 9.5. They actually
Over.
lost a pretty big piece of the team in years past. Mr. Cooper Kupp left for the Seattle Seahawks. We'll cover them in a minute.
Mhm.
As well as the starting offensive lineman and Jonah Jackson was a big part of, I feel like, the reason they lost against the Eagles. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then Michael Holt left for the Buffalo Bills in the offseason and free agency. They were able to bring in Devontae Adams, pair him with Puka Nakua. I feel like that's a massive get for them. And they're
mhm.
essentially just retooling their offensive line by committee. It feels
Yeah.
like they brought in DJ Humphreys, Coleman Shelton, who is his replacement is Jonah Jackson in Chicago. So that'll be interesting.
That is very
And
interesting.
David Quessenberry for the guard spots.
Yeah, I think Sean McVay knows. Like Sean McVay is actually one of my favorite head coaches in the NFL, and I
Yes,
think
I
it's
agree.
not because of his mind, but also his locker room guy, and he can pick out who can be the next man up. The Rams, when they went to that Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl against the Bengals in 2021,
I think so, yes.
yeah, and when they because yeah, that was the first full season after COVID because yeah, there was
Yes.
actually yeah, so. Um, there was injuries all year for the Rams that year, and Sean McVay was just like, hey, he carries a lot of that
Next man
same
up.
next man up mentality that Bill Belichick made famous and the Patriots made famous in the early 2000s, yada yada yada. But he does it well, and he's a great head coach. I think he's one of those head coaches that like the Rams got lucky to get him so young because he will be there for decades. I think he's like the Mike Tomlin as well. Like he's just that
Yeah.
coach that's
Well,
going
we
to be
did have
around.
that burnout scare a couple of years ago.
We did,
I
and then
hope
the
we don't
whole
have to do that again because, like you, I love watching him.
yeah, and I think he's one of those guys where if he does get fired, he's getting picked up right away by another team.
Oh,
Like
100%.
he's like he's a the only reason why he would ever get fired is just because the Rams actually need something very fresh because it's just one of those franchise. I mean, the Rams already struggle getting fans to their stadium and stuff like that. Same with the Chargers, and it's just so it's already kind of a tougher environment. They don't really get home field advantage too much. It's kind of
Yeah.
like but I will say Devontae Adams has so much left in the tank too. I just hate that he was on the Jets and that he went to the Raiders. Like he was on the Raiders, then went to the Jets, and it's like the Raiders had no quarterback to throw to him, and then he gets on the Jets, and I think he was expecting the Green Bay glory days. That's not going to happen. I don't think Rodgers has anything left in the tank. Devontae Adams does. You see him run routes still. You see it like he cooks people still. And even though Cooper Kupp's gone, look what happened when Cooper Kupp
I
was
think
injured.
this is an upgrade, honestly.
I
I
think
feel
so
like at this
too.
point in their careers.
And with Puka Nakua, who pick, go ahead. Pick Puka Nakua was getting doubled and he was still putting up monster numbers.
Yeah.
Like, and now you got to deal with Devontae Adams. I think, and then you got on the defensive side, you got Verse coming in, like coming into his own, and he was a rookie last year, dude. And he was a monster. Like,
That entire defensive line for the Rams, with them
yeah.
progressing another year, having another NFL season under their
And
belt, I think
who
will be
knew
a massive bump up for them.
who knew they could get better at defensive line after Aaron Donald retired? Nobody
Yeah,
expected
actually.
that, but Sean McVay did it.
I'll say
Like, so
they don't collectively have this, they don't have the same numbers as him, like
no,
as
no,
individuals,
nobody
but
will. Aaron Donald
as a
was generational.
collective, they actually had a higher pressure rate
Mm-hmm.
with the people they had brought in than their last season that they had with Aaron Donald,
Yeah.
which I don't think anyone would have seen coming into the NFL season.
Yeah.
And who would have thought, having two guys played through college together and drafting them together, they would have chemistry together on the defensive line.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Hey, well, I think the Eagles have known that now for the past couple of years. So
Yeah,
for the players. So I guess everyone's just starting to take that playbook and just be like, what if we draft
actually.
what if we just draft teammates that are really good? like, so I mean, it makes sense, but or sign them. Oh, these guys play together and let's bring them in. But
Yeah. I
um,
mean, and with this new class that they had brought in, they actually traded out of the first round,
mhm,
which is kind of funny because as
the
Panthers
opposite.
fans, we have watched the Panthers Blueprint. If you guys haven't checked that out,
It's
great
awesome.
content.
It really is.
They actually were trying to trade up at one point, and
Mhm.
it was reportedly for Tetairoa McMillan. It was between him and Colson Loveland, from what I have read.
Mm,
So, with them deciding they weren't able to make that deal to go up and get their guy, they're like, okay, let's go back, let's accrue more assets, and
yeah.
then let's just go with more bodies. So
The
they were able to bring in
opposite.
Terrence Ferguson, which is kind of like a discount Colson Loveland to me,
I
in a
mean,
way.
yeah, yeah, but again, it's the Rams mentality of like plug and play. Let's go,
Yeah, I say
and
next man up. You're gonna have a role in this team.
yeah, and I think that helps. I think that helps players, knowing that
Yeah,
it does bring them more of that team mentality that I think the Rams can amplify, and Sean McVay does a really good job of amplifying. It's like even when he had Aaron Donald, he was like, "Man, I know you're the star, but like we're doing this for everyone." And Aaron
yeah,
Donald was very much that same guy, like, and so it's just a mentality that's been bred into that locker room and been established in that locker room now, so that when rookies come in there, they know what to expect. And as you can tell by the way I'm talking to them, I mean, they're my favorite for the NFC West. I think the
I agree.
Rams finished so strong last year
Yep.
after battling injuries, and I think, in my opinion, they got better. I know they, like I
I
said,
agree. And it's
they,
like
they
we were
got better.
talking before we had hopped on here. We both agree that we think Stafford and Adams are just going to have immediate chemistry
Yeah.
with Stafford just essentially being able to play on time in this offensive system. Like I had said, my bold prediction is I think they are one of the two best teams in the NFC. I do think they make the NFC title game this year, and I think they have a good chance to make it to the Super Bowl in what I think will be Stafford's final year with this team.
With this team or with the NFL?
That is to be determined
Okay.
because it's, I think, purely dependent on if his back is allowing him to play or
Mm,
not.
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Man, I hate that he was with Detroit for so long. He accrued so many injuries on his body. I feel like he could go another 3 or 4 years if he didn't play in Detroit for the first part of
Yeah,
his career.
actually.
But his arm talent is that's what okay. I'm gonna glaze Matthew Stafford for a little bit. So that man was the sole reason him and Calvin Johnson, anybody paid any attention to Detroit
In
football
the
for those 10.
2010s, yeah.
They had no defense, no offensive line, no running backs, no like that franchise did not help out Matthew Stafford whatsoever, and he put up
That
monster
was the
numbers.
only glimmer of hope
He
that was coming
still
through that city at
him and
that point, period.
yeah, and that's the thing too is like he wouldn't like Calvin would put up monster numbers not because Matthew Stafford was forcing the ball to him, it's because he was open all the time.
He's Calvin Johnson.
But yeah, like and
It's like if
yeah,
your
we
name is
did the
Megatron, I'm sorry, like
we
you
yeah
get that bar.
we did the top receivers list, and he's again it was highly contentious, but he's my number two all time behind Jerry Rice. And I get it. Randy Moss is a guy and he's in my top three. He's number three. Calvin Johnson's freaking,
He's insane.
he's a monster. But
Yeah.
I could like, could Matthew Stafford have been like Patrick Mahomes type? I think so. Like his arm talent, he was the one that was doing the no look passes in Detroit before Patrick Mahomes was even in like college or high school yet. Like he,
I think that he would potentially be in the same breath as Aaron Rodgers in terms of league MVPs and
absolutely,
being able
absolutely.
to, he had the arm talent to do it.
Like between Matthew Stafford between 25 and 33 years old, what could have been if he was on a different team, any team besides Detroit. I'm not even joking. I mean, maybe stay away from Cleveland and stuff, especially back then because they
Yeah.
were both, yeah. But any other team, I think you're right. Like he was putting up over 4,000 yards easily every year, and not all like Calvin Johnson was getting 1,500 of those. Where else was he throwing the ball to? Like
Yeah.
everyone else on the team. It's like 50. He was Calvin Johnson 15 to 1,800 yards per game. But whatever. I mean, Matthew Stafford is that dude, and
Yep.
I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. He finally has that Super Bowl. I know he doesn't have MVPs, but his overall passing yards numbers and passing touchdowns and touchdown interception ratios are all fantastic, especially comparing to some of the quarterbacks that are already in the Hall of Fame. Again, different era, get it, respect it, but he blossomed in the new passing era. So I don't know. That's my thought. I think over 9.5, hammer the
Easy.
over,
Yeah.
hammer
Yeah.
it,
Hammer
hammer it,
that.
hammer it. So I mean, and plus it's plus 175. Hammer
Yeah.
that, hammer it right now. So that's our prediction. I think the Rams are pretty straightforward. They got better, and they took it to the Eagles in the first half of the divisional. I'm gonna be like I
Yeah.
like that's they did good, and then Eagles have depth and Saquon Barkley.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
But which again, that is the one question mark I will say is kind of the running back situation for the Rams. They're very much a
They
team
want
that
to be by committee, but I feel like Kyron himself, he has just established himself above the other two.
mm,
But
I almost feel like they're
with
hurting
the
themselves by
offensive,
trying to do that because when you
yeah,
have a talent like Kyron, you
yeah,
know,
with the offensive line they had, I feel like that was not a good situation. You needed to have more of a committee with the offensive line
right?
struggles that they were going through.
Yeah, yeah.
But moving on, I would say to the team that is, for some reason, there's a large gap between second and third place in the NFC West. Um, if without you looking at the number, I don't know if you are right now, what are the odds for the third place team
What
to
was the?
finish or
I
to
was
win the
on
division?
Seattle, so I wasn't looking at Arizona. Um, what was the Rams plus 175?
Yes.
Large jump
It's a pretty large jump.
plus 350.
Plus 430 for the Cardinals
Second
to
to
win the
third. Interesting.
NFC West. With their
Okay.
win total right now is set at 8.5.
Mm,
As far as key pieces that they lost on both sides of the ball, the only starter that they actually lost was Kaiser White at the linebacker spot. Everything else they had lost was just pure rotational pieces. I was able to check. They had six players who had played between 20 and 50% of the snaps. They lost in free agency with three of them being actually on the interior defensive line. They addressed that heavily in the draft,
mhm,
with I
mhm,
think two out of their first three picks being defensive tackles in Walter Nolan and Jordan Birch.
mhm,
Um, with adding Will Johnson, I feel like is a massive get in the second round if he's able to stay healthy. That was a first round talent. He was potentially cornerback one coming into the year.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Josh Sweat's a huge pickup.
oh, I agree as well.
Like
I think
Josh
with
Sweat.
him repairing himself with Jonathan Gannon,
Yep.
I feel like that's going to potentially be a big jump for him
Yeah. I
moving
think
into next
he
season.
was a big question mark at the beginning of this past season. And it took him a little bit to get his motor going because of what he was dealing with and everything. But when he did, he got it going. And Arizona got
And
him.
he, in my opinion, you need to perform your best when the lights are the brightest, and he did that in the
He
Super
did that.
Bowl.
Yeah, he did that. And I I like your prediction. Can we talk about the bold prediction? I know you kind of wanted to save that, but I keep staring at it and I'm like, are we sure? Are we
So,
sure?
yeah, I think it's because I feel like I'm a lot
It is
higher
bold. It's bold.
on I feel like the offense for the Arizona Cardinals coming in this year, I have both Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. hitting the 1,100-yard receiving mark, which would
Ton
actually
yards.
be the first time since 2020 that that number has been hit by a wide receiver and tight end on the same team. The last time it happened was Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Not to
True.
say that this team will have that same type of season because that team made it to the Super Bowl. I don't think the Cardinals are as a complete team as that Kansas City Chiefs team
They're missing an
was.
offensive line. In all
I
honesty,
agree.
they didn't.
But
I think
I
that's the
do
one thing.
think both players are talented enough to be able to hit that threshold. And a lot of that's going to come down to Kyler being able to essentially turn back the clock with the offense that he had in 2021 whenever he had over 4,200 yards and 24 touchdowns in the air.
I don't know if I'm a big Kyler fan though. That's my. I've never been high on him. I know he's talented. I've always been in the camp of you should have played baseball. I mean,
That I think is a discussion for a different day, but I will say Kyler, in my opinion,
not
I
that he's
think he is
bad.
one of the better quarterbacks out of structure. The moment that he has to become the playmaker, I feel like it's Lamar as obvious, 101 for me
Hmm.
still. Then you
Hmm.
got Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, already.
And
Yeah.
then as a playmaker with your legs and your arm, it's what? Kyler and then
Don't forget Josh Allen.
Josh. I apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
don't
don't know
forget the
how I
league
dropped that name out
MVP.
of my head.
But
Um,
yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with it, and I think you're right. But
like I do think that he is in the tier below those three. I think those three are the clear options
yeah,
with me, obviously forgetting
yeah,
Josh Allen. But in that next tier, I feel like Kyler is one of the better ones that could lead a team to. We've seen him take them to a wild card and win a playoff game, if I remember correctly.
yeah. My thing is though, is Kyler feels like one of those cases right here where it's up here,
Yes.
and they haven't been good for a while now. Not, I mean, a while in NFL terms. NFL terms, a while is like 2 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Panthers going
it's
on 8 years,
been,
baby.
I should be in my coffin by those terms with how the Panthers are doing. It's been
I agree.
it's been a millennia. Um,
2017.
yeah, but which also we could have won the Super Bowl that year if Cam didn't get hurt. But that's neither
TJ
here nor
Watt.
there. I hate you. I hate you, TJ Watt, but I love you because you're so good. But I don't know because I think Kyler's one of those guys that's like once his loyalty's gone and his confidence is gone in his team, it just feels like now he's like, well, there's no way I'm getting that same 2021 team back. So I'm just going to keep doing it all myself. And I think that's kind of detrimental instead of trusting the system. I think a more natural thing, like you were saying, like in that 2021 season, whenever something naturally broke down and then he had to, it wasn't a choice. He had to take over the game and had to make
Yes.
those runs. That is when Kyler Murray's at his best, and that's when he's a dang good quarterback and he's really fun
Yes.
to watch. But it almost seems like the past couple seasons, he's like, "Oh, everyone sucks." I'm like, it's not that he said it. No, I'm not saying that he said it. I think I don't think he would, but I'm saying like it almost looks like that on
It's like
tape to where
now
it's
it's like
like,
I have to do it.
yeah, it's like, but no, you don't trust it. Like I totally get it. Like you're very talented and everything, but it almost feels like he's forcing it too much, and I don't think he's ever going to have that trust back, as
Yeah.
far as, because I don't think because I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. at the beginning of the year last year kind of, it doesn't take long to snap Kyler's trust. I mean, you saw him drop 1 2 passes that were like kind of out of they weren't the best passes, but they were
He was
catchable.
very inconsistent because he had the game where he had what was it, two catches for over what? I know it was four catches, 130 yards, and two touchdowns, I think, and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the next week, do essentially, I think he had zero catches for 0 yards.
Yeah. So it's like,
So
what goes on? You know what I mean? And I,
is
not,
that more of distrust from Kyler, or is that more of offensive scheme not putting your best players on the ball?
but I don't think it would be because no coach is that dumb. At least I would
Yeah.
like to think that. I mean, we've Panthers fans, we've had
Hey,
dumb
let Russ cook,
coaches
baby.
that,
Malcolm Butler.
yeah, let us cook. But I mean, I don't know, man. I think Arizona for me is last place. I don't care that they have that. I think they're last. I just think too many things can go wrong. I think Trey McBride is too good to be on this team. I think
I'm actually kind of glad that with whenever we covered the NFC South, we were all almost kind of like in sync with step of where we thought teams were. And this is where one I feel like me and you actually kind of disagree a
well,
little
we
bit
were
more
already
because
you had San Francisco third and I was like second.
yeah,
So I mean I like
I'm a
those
lot
teams.
higher on Arizona. I feel like than you. I feel like the main thing is the continued progression of that defense. I feel like Jonathan Gannon is a good defensive minded head coach. They're going to be under another season with Drew Petzing, the OC.
They
Hopefully
kind of
they
have to
will.
because they don't have any. You know, like they
There's not really another option, but at the same time, I wouldn't say he's the worst option as well. We might get to that in a second. Um, but I feel like the offense just needs to take another step forward with Kyler utilizing the tools that are around him and the defense using Josh Sweat kind of as that focal point on the outside to get to the quarterback. I have them hitting the over on 8.5, and I think they are potentially a sneaky wild card team making it into the playoffs.
I almost think though when the Panthers knocked them out of the playoffs, I almost feel like that's going to have a longer lasting effect because literally, what did I think Trey McBride said it? How the f did we lose to these guys? Like
Yeah.
now, granted, screw you, Trey
One, as
McBride.
a Panthers fan, great feeling.
Oh yeah, like basically, double birds, like Steve Austin, like on the top ropes, like
Yeah.
just. But we're good. I mean, Panthers were good at the end of the season. So and again, you can't sit here. I even as a Panthers fan, I can't be like, you lost to the Panthers? No, we were good.
You're competing, but at the same
Yeah, but
time,
I don't know.
Arizona, I think they'll do fairly well, but you yourself,
I think
you got
fourth.
them in
I think
fourth.
under
All
win
right.
total. But that goes to say, I don't think any team. It's just all of these teams have to play each other 6 times.
Yeah.
It's gonna suck. And I think Arizona comes out on the bottom of that pile, unfortunately for them, because it's just such a tough division. And at 8.5, maybe they win 6 and they finish last. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not like
I think the variability with Arizona is a lot higher than
any
the
other
other
team
teams,
almost.
in
Yeah,
my opinion. Yeah.
yeah.
Because
So
with me going into the next team, Seattle, they're at plus 550 on FanDuel to win the division. Win total line set at 7.5. They're going to be replacing, I feel like, some pretty big pieces going into this season with their starting quarterback and their two starting wide receivers, both leaving in free agency and trades.
yeah, I believe in Sam Darnold again, though. That's my thing. That's my thing, man. I don't know. Sam Darnold, I get it. He had Justin Jefferson. He had Jordan Addison. He had
Using
a
Kevin
really good.
O'Connell's offensive system, which is essentially, in my opinion, quarterback proof, but I'll continue.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're playing Monday Night Football and your name's Kirk Cousins. But anyway, um, I don't know. I just think yeah, they lost DK. Yeah, they lost Tyler Lockett. In the grand scheme of things, DK Metcalf was your go guy. He was get draw the safety over so that way Tyler Lockett can run a deep inside post or deep inside in route. That's like a 12-yard in. And
Yep.
And he's going to
Then
catch the ball
run
and
two
then run.
yards and then fall to
Yeah,
the ground. Yep.
exactly. So yeah, they lost some of those, but they got Cooper Cup. MVS is nothing to sleep at either. I think MVS is very much similar to DK. Not talent wise. I'm saying what he gives the team.
I say I
He
want to
just
see a
gave
picture of them two shirtless standing next to each other, and then I want you to say that sentence again.
I really like if you put DK shirtless against anybody and that man is like freaking he's a monster.
Nah, hey, all I'll say is Pete Carroll stood up to him shirtless. He took it like a man.
That is true. That is true. Pete Carroll's a legend, but I think Cooper Cup and Tyler Lockett are very similar in my opinion as far as great route runners. Very much not very like Cooper Cup can have some explosivity if that's a word. Um, Tyler Lockett, you don't really get that. He likes to catch the ball and which I respect to him, man. Keeping his career, making sure he gets his money. I would do the same dang thing. Good job, Tyler Lockett, for always doing that. Guy out of Kansas State, that man's the man. But Cooper Cup kind of gives that same route running ability, the same type of smart route running, finding the open zone, the opening in a cover 2, cover 3, any type of zone coverage. And then MVS is going to be your big guy, like going up and getting the same balls. And I mean, Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, I put them in the same category. They're good. They're average to above average, depending. And I think Sam Darnold, even when he was with the Panthers, he still showed some of that. Like Sam Darnold could actually get the ball out there, like to Philly, almost really weird. To chosen to, whenever, but Robbie Anderson, whenever he would fly, like that first game when Sam Darnold was facing the Jets for week one, all three years ago now, going to that opening game, like Sam Darnold, when he throws the ball, it looks good. Like, and I hate that he was with the Jets at the beginning of his career. I feel like that screwed him over. I liked him at USC coming out. I think he has great arm talent. He can read the field, and Adam Gase screwed him up. Adam Gase absolutely left him
Yeah,
out
that
to
was not the
dry.
best start to his career.
Yeah, and I think that set him back. I think he's definitely a I don't know, man. I don't think he's going to be, but Geno Smith wasn't the star. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't really put Sam Darnold as the star either. The Seattle Seahawks aren't really known for having a star at quarterback. Even
Yeah.
when Russ was there, Russ didn't win the Super Bowl because he was the star. The
Legion of Boom.
Legion of Boom, yeah, won the Super Bowl for them with Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, and who was the other guy? That was like the three main pieces.
Brandon Browner.
Thank you. Yeah. And so I don't know. Seattle has the fan base. They're always going to be passionate. And I feel I feel like they're like only one or two wins better than the Cardinals, in my opinion. And it's only because they did add veterans at the positions that they're missing, and that helps a lot. That helps so much, even
I
because
will agree that will take away from some of the potential mistakes.
yeah, and I think that helps Sam a lot too. Because imagine like, oh, Sam Darnold has an incredible year with the Minnesota Vikings, and all of a sudden he's coming over to Seattle, and you're sitting there, and it's like all of a sudden he has to throw to rookies. That's not. But now it's like no, he's throwing to MVS and Cooper Cup. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then getting DeMarcus Lawrence, like he can still play. I he's older, yeah, but I
That's
think
still
that's
that's still a big body
I
that's
think
able to
that's
get
a
into the
better
backfield
pick.
as an edge rusher.
I think it's a better pickup than Calais Campbell, in my
Oh,
opinion.
100%.
Like
100%.
so you sit there and say that, and then Emin Worry, or how
Nick Emenworry. Yep, you
yeah,
got it.
Emin Worry, I like him a lot.
Swiss Army knife.
I
He
like him a
is. They
lot.
want him to be their Cam Chancellor in the future.
Yes, correct.
So now let me explain to you why I don't think the Seahawks will be as good as that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as big on Sam Darnold, I feel like, as you are. I feel like the big reasons that he was able to succeed was one, you have one of the three best receivers in the NFL on the outside. You have one of the best wide receiver duos in the league with him and Jordan Addison together. You have TJ Hawkinson, who is a stable offensive or a stable tight end. Aaron Jones was playing at probably one of the best rates that he had since his early days in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
He had a steady offensive line until injuries had started happening. Brian Flores ran one of the highest pressure rates in NFL history that we have seen over the past 20 years on
Yeah.
the defensive side of the ball to keep them in games. He is asked to do, I feel, very little in the actual Kevin O'Connell system. Kevin O'Connell's system essentially is quarterback proof in a way, like I was saying. Um, and I just feel like going into Seattle, not having those players around him, I'm not saying that he isn't able to learn from his experiences in Minnesota. I feel like no matter what, as a quarterback, you're going to pick up stuff and you're going to be able to develop, whether that is mentally or physically. And hopefully he was able to develop mentally more while he was in Minnesota. And I'm proven wrong whenever he goes to Seattle. Now, the only other thing that does scare me with this as well is do you know who the new offensive coordinator is in Seattle?
Remind me.
It is Clint Kubiak. So
Mm,
the question is, are we going to get the two games of Clint Kubiak that we had this year with Derek Carr, Marquez Valdes-Scantling in New Orleans? Shout out Prevo. Um, and it's having, I think, if I remember correctly, the highest scoring point total through 2 weeks in NFL history. Or are we going to get the final 15 weeks of Clint Kubiak's tenure in New Orleans whenever the offense took a drastic dip?
I think the question comes down to what's the talent difference, or was there? You know what I mean? Is it? is Seattle the same type? Is it in the same type of category that the Saints were in last year? You know what I'm saying? Whenever it's like, or are they a little bit better? And
No,
I don't know
I
if they're a
do
little bit
think
better.
Seattle is a little bit better, and of course, like the win total odds would tell you that as well.
Yeah.
But I just feel like in the division itself, other teams either had improved in the positions that they were lacking in, or the positions that they had another year to develop in the case with Arizona. I just feel like Seattle had lost so much. I don't think Marcos Valdes-Scantling is going to be able to offer the high point 50-50 chances that DK can, just
Mm-hmm.
purely based off the size.
Mm-hmm.
Cup, I feel like a lot of his ability to get open and find those open spaces was through motion in McVay's system. I don't think Kubiak uses nearly as much as a
Not
lot more
much.
stagnant
Yeah.
and using the running back out of the backfield. So maybe Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet
That is
potential
true.
years
And
coming.
Nobody talks about how good Charbonnet ended that season, especially with Kenneth Walker going out and
That could be an
everything.
actual competition going into the
And
year.
that can help out Sam a lot. And I think they're going to rely on that. And I think that's how they can. I mean, they're not going to win the division, but
Yeah.
if to win the division, they got to do a lot of play actions. And I think that's what Sam did in Minnesota. And I think they're going to do the same
He
thing.
excelled
Best
in that. And
motions.
then now it's more of, are your pieces on the outside able to create the same chances that your pieces did on the outside in Minnesota? And I personally just don't trust it enough.
I think he faced a really he faced in the division last year though above average defenses in the NFL. Like even though Chicago, like their offense was always so weird,
For
like
sure.
so weird week to week. They had an incredible defense. Same with Green Bay. They helped Jordan Love out a lot, and Jordan Love's a good product. But it's like, and I mean, the Green Bay's defense was shoddy at the beginning of the season, but they turned it on finally. But I think they faced like in Detroit. Detroit's all going to be scrappy the entire time because Dan Campbell. But so I think
And
that's
Aiden
gonna.
Hutchinson was playing like an absolute monster.
Yeah, I feel bad for that still,
Yeah.
man. But yeah, I think it's almost like we're almost two sides of the same coin though. It's almost like we're talking about the same things. It's just I'm a little more positive on it. And I think that's because I have a soft spot for Sam because I feel so bad on how he started out his career
Yeah.
and the talent that I think was wasted under Adam Gase's coaching. And I just think he's gonna. My prediction is he's gonna carry over more than we think he's going to carry over from the Kevin O'Connell days, that
Yeah.
season, that this past season of like, oh, this is how I can, you know what I mean? It gives him a little bit more confidence. Like he knows he can do it now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I think that carries over. Um, and I think that's where our difference is. It's just like we're just kind of you're a little bit more we're kind of around the same point. Like they're finishing third in my book, but it's very much close to Arizona. And it goes again to what I said against Arizona. It sucks that they play in the NFC West this year.
100% agree. Yes.
So
I think that's all what this comes down to is like, hey, I'm sorry you're in this division.
yeah, I'm sorry that everyone's gonna want to punch each other's jaw off, and each team does
Yeah.
have the ability to.
Yeah.
I think they're now the Rams. They are a little bit of a different category, even though FanDuel for some reason has them second odds. I don't agree with that. I think that's why you hammer that to win the division, and you parlay that with the over of win totals. So
Yeah.
just to get a good payout, and I think that's going to be a guarantee. Now we can go back and you can pull the receipts, and we're going to be wrong probably, but
Yeah. Please tag me.
yeah, like please, that's what sports are all about. But um, and I like your bold prediction. I'll let you do
Yeah.
that.
Kind
I
of
think
kind of
it's good.
piggybacking off of with me kind of seeing the potential regression of Sam Darnold. I do think that there is going to be chances for Jalen Milroe, the quarterback out of Alabama that they drafted in the third round, for him to be able to come into some place early on in the season in, I would say, like sub package roles, kind of like what Justin Fields did with
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh last year towards the latter half of the
He should have
season.
been the starter, but yeah,
Yeah, neither here nor there.
we'll get to that
And
too.
then by the end of the year, I feel like he will at least have one start under his belt for Mike McDonald to see if this is someone that they could potentially build around or look forward more to the 2026 draft.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to think about too is that Jalen Milroe is one of the most inaccurate like short pass and medium passing quarterbacks I've ever seen, and I would rather him just run the ball for
Oh,
7 8
100%.
yards than, but his deep ball for some reason is gorgeous. And imagine if they had
It's like
DK. You know
imagine
what
a
I
more
mean? Like
compact like Joe Milton.
yeah, and imagine if they had DK. I feel like he might get in a little bit more, like especially with his deep ball ability.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why that you would think that would be like, oh wow, if he can't even pass short and medium, how is he going to hit? But he hits it. He hit it all last year on these big plays. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to pan out. But I, as far as like a starter, like I know he's not
Yeah,
going to be in the league, but I absolutely think he is very much athletic enough to get into those type of packages, especially around the goal line. Get Kenneth will maybe even have like a package of all
just
right,
run
two
army
tight
style
end.
offense, triple option as soon as you get within the 5 yard line.
Yeah, I was gonna say two tight end set, shotgun, Charbonnet, and Kenneth Walker on one on either side of Jalen Milrow, and that's
Yep.
it's like oh good luck. He can fake it, run it, give it to Kenneth, speed option, triple any RPO even like he can. I at least trust him enough to like RPO, like very basic stuff like that. But just you got to get distractions around him. Like that's why it's like it's got to be Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I think at the same time in the backfield when you're within that goal line situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're third for me. I could see. I would not be surprised if they finish fourth. I'm just a little bit more positive on the Sam Darnold situation. I think I feel like they didn't get any better. I don't think they got really worse, and that they just kind of stayed the same. But that's fine. They're going through all those changes, and I think they're allowed to have a season like that, especially with how well Geno Smith played for them whenever nobody expected that. So, and I think Seattle can have a little bit of grace this year if they do finish fourth, but I think they finish third. So,
That's fair.
yeah. But yeah, I mean that's our NFC West predictions. I think in the future we were actually going to do the NFC North. We had some stuff fall through, but that'll be we'll probably have a quicker turnaround on this next episode. I
Yeah.
think
And hopefully we'll be able to get our guest on for that one as well.
and I think it's Sunday night. He said he's good and available. So and he may or may not be a Packers correspondent. So y'all just deal with that. I get it. So it's going to be interesting. But we
Me,
love
me
the
and him
guy.
might be in step with this one, so we'll see.
Yeah, we
Future
love the guy though.
future
He's
prediction.
awesome. Known him forever. He's one of our best friends growing up, and one of our little brothers. Basically, he's right there with Prevo. So he'll be on. He'll talk to us a little bit about what's going on up there, so that way because he's more in tune with that. But guys, stay tuned. Like I said, we're going to be doing each NFL division, and then even plus more. We'll even get into some MLB talk because I think we have to at this point, unfortunately, but also
Yeah.
fortunately because I like
At
my
least we got the
Nationals.
home run derby and All-Star break on us soon. So
Boom. All right. Well, other than that, boys, everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. And
so long, stay average.